Coming up next, Damona Hoffman not only is the dating expert on the Drew Barrymore show, she also has been a dating expert on BET television. She's had a Sirius XM show. She has a fantastic podcast called Dates and Mates. Of course, she's been featured in Cosmopolitan, Huffington Post, Bustle, and tops the charts in relationship category on most podcast platforms. But you know what? All that's irrelevant because she's here today with relationship advice for all of us to make our working relationships better, to make life at home better, stack Benjamins quicker when you've got great relationships around you. And here she is sitting down at our virtual card table in Mom's basement. Damona Hoffman's here. Love is in the air, Damona.
It sure is. And I'm so happy to finally be here in the basement with you.
It is about time. We go way back to a little room in Nashville where you and I hung out for, I think it was like an hour and a half waiting for Mark Cuban to show up.
But it was a good time because there were drinks, there was good conversation, and yeah.
A lot of neat people. That was a small room, a small group of people, but all neat people. Like I met you there. I met other cool people. It was a good time. It was fabulous.
And we got to meet Mark Cuban.
I know. Well, I don't know if you remember, he came over at first and he goes and grabs some food and he comes and he comes right up to me and goes, "Hey, do you mind if I stand here next to you?" Screw you, Mark. Like, no, do not stand next to me. Like, are you kidding?
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
No one knows him. What does he know about finance?
Eating food. Well, hey, we're not here to talk about that. Let's talk about this because, Damona, you know, many of us love our jobs, but we don't love networking, that we know that networking works, right? It's exciting to hear you talk about the art of attractiveness and the fact that not even a romantic setting, because even if we weren't all blessed with the world's best looks, I have a face for radio. You say there are some things we can all do, though, to be more attractive, which is going to help us, like, not just romantically, which is what you talk about all the time, but in every walk of life, just being a more attractive person to be around.
I say that all of the skills that you build in your life in all the different areas, none of them are wasted. And as a dating and relationship coach, I actually help people pull from those skills to be more successful in dating and in relationships. I often say date like it's your job. But, you know, not everybody's good at their job. So I also look at dating and relationships as a set of learned skills. And, you know, we read a lot of fairy tales as kids and we see a lot of rom-coms and we think it's supposed to just happen magically. But I have seen, after doing this for 15 years, that when you approach dating and relationships with that same kind of focus, you do other things in your life that you're successful at, you get different results, more successful results.
That's exactly what I want to dive into. But before we get there, because I've one tangent that everybody wants to know about. So tell me about your career, because we talk careers a ton here, Damona. And when you're a relationship expert, there's got to be less than, I was trying to think this morning, there's got to be maybe 200 of you nationwide. Like, there can't be that many people that do what you do. How do you even get into that?
Well, there's a lot of us now on TikTok, if you count that as a
no.
dating coaching
There's a lot
profession.
of financial planners on TikTok as well, and I will tell you, no,
yeah. There's not a lot of us, and especially there aren't a lot of us that have been in this business as long as I have. Like I remember going to conferences, 12, 13 years ago, and telling people I'm a dating coach, and people are like, What is that? What is the only reference point they had, Joe, was as I would explain what I did, they would always say, "Oh, so you're like the female Hitch."
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, kind of. That's it. But I didn't start out as a dating coach. I actually started out in television casting. And I would find that there were a lot of talented actors that just didn't know what to do to get in the door with someone like me or someone like my boss. And so I started teaching classes at night for actors and how to market themselves, how to have headshots that would stand out and tell their story, how to win over the room when they walked into an audition. And I was online dating at the time. And I started to see the similarities between what I would tell actors about their headshots and what I needed to do with my dating profile photos to get noticed by the kind of men that I wanted to meet and get in the kind of rooms I wanted to be in, which were dates, and make that great first impression. So I realized that those skills were applicable. I ended up meeting my husband online way back in 2003. People were online dating back then.
Really?
Yeah. And that was the time when I realized maybe there is something to this. I didn't really think of it as a strategy, but people would come to me after I met him and say, well, what were you doing? And I'd say, let me see your profile. And I'm like, oh no, your picture's saying this. And why do you have a picture of a kid? And you're a single guy and you're looking to have kids, but you already got a kid and that's your cousin's kid. And like dating profile bait. We could talk about that all day. That's like thirst trap photos for women, like pictures of you with kids. Oh. But yeah, I realized that there really was a strategy that then I could repeat for other people.
Well, and I think we can do the same thing then with our LinkedIn presence, right? I mean, if it's going to work on a dating app, we can do the same thing for LinkedIn. Where do we get it wrong?
We should
like our whole online presence. And if whether we're submitting for casting to you, we're on a dating app, do my LinkedIn. What am I getting wrong usually, Damona?
First of all, I'm going to give you a hot tip, by the way, about LinkedIn. You didn't ask for this one, but for those who are online dating, safety is really important. And a lot of people don't realize that LinkedIn is the best Google sleuthing. It's the best internet sleuthing tool to catch a catfish. So that's my hot tip for the day for those who are online dating. But for those who are using LinkedIn, well, first of all, it's important to get clear on what you're using it for. And I say the same when people are dating. I put them where the pool of people that they want to meet is. So are you using LinkedIn for networking? Are you using LinkedIn for business relationships and more long-term, laying the foundation and networking? Are you using it to promote your business? There's so many different ways. Are you job seeking? So we start from there. We start from the end goal. And this is the same way I start my clients. I say, what is your relationship goal? And then we work back from there. But it's important to, in all of these situations, to lead with relationship building first. So a lot of times on LinkedIn, I'll get cold pitches. I'm on the Drew Barrymore show. I do dating and relationship segments on the Drew Barrymore show. People will out of the gate on LinkedIn be like, can I get my perfume into Drew's hands because I want her Flower Beauty brand to promote it or to produce it? And it's like, first of all, I don't know you. Second of all, that's not even what I do, So we have to really be strategic in all these places that we show up, whether it's LinkedIn or even, Instagram, TikTok, all of these places that people are going to then search for you. Like if you meet online and you meet someone online, they're going to go look for you on Instagram. And if they see a post that's meant for something else out of context, that is all going to now factor into their impression of you. So we have to consider our identity and our online identity are now linked in a way that they've never been before. And we have to be really conscious about the way that we present ourselves in all of those facets.
This is fabulous, Damona, because it feels like better fishing to me. Like if I'm trying to catch the metaphorical fish, I want to go where those fish are. And yet I feel like people start off with, well, where's everybody else that's doing the same thing that I'm doing? If I want to differentiate myself, I don't want to go where everybody else is that is trying to do the same thing I'm doing. I want to be the different fish. It reminds me of, you might know, Dr. Thomas Stanley wrote this book called The Millionaire Next Door, which was about how the richest people, generally drive a Buick, and you don't have any clue that they got lots of money.
I drive a Buick, Joe.
and that's why we have you on, because we know that Damona's got the big bucks. That's exactly why. First clue. But but he actually, most people, that book was a big time bestseller. A lot of people got ahas from it. A lot of our fans here probably have read it or heard of it. What they haven't heard of, he also sold books, Damona, for financial advisors, saying if you want to market to or network with affluent people, guess what you do? Stop going to the money shows. Like every town has these money shows. They get like the boat show and the home show. They have a money show. All your competition is at the money show. Why the hell would you go to the money show? No, go to a place. If you want to work with physicians, go to the physicians conference. If you want to work with engineers, go to the engineering conference. And so I started doing those as a financial planner. I was the only booth. Like when I went to the engineering conventions, I was the only booth that was on financial planning. Every single one was, building trades, was using this CAD program, was using this thing, like all these things. One financial planner, 500 engineers, who is the people I want to work with in one room together. You're saying really the same thing.
Yeah, you're totally right with that. And that's actually one of my offline dating strategies. I'll tell people, go where the pool is and where you are not going to have as much competition.
So don't go to the speed dating things.
I say do it all though.
Do it all. Okay.
The second part of it.
Okay.
But yeah, you will probably have more luck. Like there's actually something that's been trending this week that I was going to talk about on TikTok, where women are saying go to Home Depot to meet a man. There's like no other ladies there, and they say go on a Friday night, because on a Saturday night all the married men, or a Saturday afternoon all the married men are there. You gotta go on a Friday night, you get the single guys. So this is what I do with people. I originally, when I started coaching, I called myself a dating strategist, and I know it sounds unromantic, but I know that it works when we get strategic about, okay, who do you want to meet? Then we figure out, do you make it a mix, if you make a balanced portfolio here of opportunities to meet someone. So you may go to the Home Depot, or if you're a guy, I don't know, I say go to the yoga class or something like that. And then you also do have to play in the bigger pool too. So a lot of people will come to me saying that they don't like online dating, they reject dating apps, but I'm like, that's where 40% of couples begin today. So are you going to just not go to the party? And you can just go to Home Depot every Friday night, and that's fine. Or you can be in the pool where everybody else is, and they're looking for the same thing. But that's where we have to get strategic about the way you're presenting yourself. And that's where using all of those marketing skills that I used to teach actors come into play when I'm coaching singles.
Okay, I wasn't going to go here next, but I'm wondering if I'm single at Home Depot and I'm scoping out single people, right? And this is great in any type of networking. This is good around the holidays too, for like holiday parties, and you don't know what to say to, this person you might want to work with in the future. How do you go up to somebody you don't even know at Home Depot and start a discussion to even find out if there might be something here?
Two easy ways are to, I say you want to either have a compliment or a question at the ready. So that's a very easy way to break the ice, just a compliment to someone on something that they're wearing. And I actually tell people to wear, I call it conversation piece clothing, something that has a story behind it that you could tell.
So wear my Speedo to Home Depot. Is that what you're saying?
You definitely would get a lot of comments and compliments, I'm sure. But there's something also in like the pickup artist community. They call it peacocking, but where you wear something now I don't have people go that far, but just something that could be a conversation starter. And then also use the environment around you. Like you could ask a question. I have been a single woman in Home Depot before, and I don't know anything about construction. And so that's like the perfect environment for me to just go up to someone and say, do you know how this works? And I know guys love being helpful. They love teaching a lady a thing or two. So it's just a very easy opening. And you can use a question about anything in the environment. I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves to like, I have to be witty. I have to come up with something that's going to inspire this kind of response. And usually the first thing that comes to mind is the best thing to lead with. And when you think about it too much, you pre-plan it too much, it feels inorganic. This is why I also have my clients, as they go through the process with me, getting clarity on what they're looking for is just the beginning. Having strategy is the next thing. And then we do skill building. I do improv. I do dating improv with my clients to prepare them for those situations so that they're not second guessing themselves and they can kind of release that filter and just really be in the moment and be authentic with someone.
Man, improv is perfect for dating. I'm going because I've taken a few improv classes. I never thought about that use case, but I did think about it for networking. So no matter what type of networking is, improv is wonderful.
Yeah, and it teaches you to listen. That's the most important thing in building relationships and having a conversation. Good listening skills and staying in the moment. Because you go to a party and you're like, "Hi, my name's Demona. Hi, I'm Joe." And then you get in the conversation and 30 seconds later, you're like,
"What the hell's her name?
What was her name?"
What's her name?
It's because we're projecting to the future already, and we're already thinking. We're in our heads about what are we going to say and how am I going to connect with this person, and do I have something in my teeth, and do they think I'm weird? And it is really a practice of getting yourself in a space of being able to be present and really listen.
I'm thinking about that presentation at Home Depot or anything, a job interview, networking event, whatever it might be, the speed dating. How much of attractiveness is verbal and how much of it is nonverbal cues?
Ooh, this is tricky because I think we're in a time where our brains are changing because so much of our communication is digital now. And I've had to develop a whole curriculum around that because we have learned originally we've developed communication based on a number of cues: the visual, body language, vocal inflection, tone, vocabulary, so many things that factor into our impression of somebody. And now so many people are connecting first. You start off with LinkedIn, and with a lot of my clients, it's with dating apps. So I feel like our brains are sort of changing around this right now. But at this point, if you're meeting someone face to face, it does all factor in all of those things that I mentioned and more. And this is why I find I have to get people out of their heads, because when we start thinking about, oh, maybe I'm not attractive enough to be talking to this person, or they're not going to, they don't like me. We change the way that we present ourselves and the way that we start interacting, and usually not for the better.
No, I absolutely believe that. And I'm thinking about people that I've met when I first see them, and we all make an immediate judgment call. I'm like, they're not very attractive. But then I find them attractive, Demona, because they're confident. Mm-hmm. Because when they walk up to me and they talk to me, I'm like, wow, I really find myself liking this person from across the room. I didn't think was anybody that I'd ever talked to. Is there some technique, some strategy that I can do that will help me kind of get there? Square my shoulders, look you in the eye. Like I had this one guy a long time ago, and I do this now by habit. I look at you in the eye while you're talking, and I nod, and I make sure that I'm in that conversation, no matter how bad. I'm an introvert at heart, no matter how bad my brain wants to get out of there. And there have been times, by the way, this is horrible to admit, where I've been zoning out, but the person I'm talking to thinks I'm completely in it because they're like, "You are one of the best listeners I've ever met." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what the hell were we talking about?" It's just become a habit. But are there techniques like that we can use that project confidence, that project this eagerness to be more in this conversation?
I'm still surprised to hear you say that you're an introvert, because I did not have that impression of you at all.
Nobody has that impression.
Right?
I need to sleep for an hour once we're done talking.
I feel like I should be turning the question around on you. How did you pull the wool over my eyes, Joe? No, but okay, a couple of hacks I'll give to help you, first of all, remember people's names and connect with them. use their name in the conversation. So that sort of solidifies, first of all, their name, and you're more likely to remember it if you're in conversation with them and repeating their name back to them in a very natural and organic way, Joe. And then it also makes them really feel seen and heard, that it feels like you're not just talking to random people, you are really connecting with them specifically, personally. The other thing is that people find you more interesting when they are talking about themselves. So people feel like you're right. They have positive feelings because they like talking about positive experiences that they've had and feeling like they're being listened to and they're very impressive. And they will associate those positive feelings with you, whether or not they have actually shared anything positive themselves. So that is another hack to really ask good questions. And I say to my clients, ask questions that get people to tell a story, and also ask questions that tap into nostalgia, because nostalgia is immediately bonding. So if I said to you, Joe, what did you do for summers growing up as a kid?
Oh, yeah. We do bond over that, don't we?
Yeah, that was a question. But
no, but like, even if they're different, well, I'm just going to the next battle. My head works on this art of war thing, and I think about, okay, then where does that lead us? It leads us to either we have similarities or we have differences. And either way, it's such a nostalgic, low stress area that we can talk about our differences growing up. And it becomes a nice bonding experiences there, that we're here together today where we're alike, even though we had these cool differences that we can celebrate.
Yes, exactly. And it evokes those memories in me, even if I did something completely different than you did as a kid over the summer. I'm now thinking about summer and, the watermelon hunt and the pig roast. Sorry for the vegetarians. I don't know. I loved the pig roast.
Us too. Well, we did one in our backyard. We lived out in the middle of the country, and somebody we would have the big pig smoker. Would you do this? We had the big pig smoker. Yeah. In fact, my high school graduation, Demona, at our house, a couple hundred people there roasted a pig and cut that thing up, and yum.
See, and I'm connecting with that. And I'm remembering growing up in Michigan and the 4th of July. So it's a different time, but this is actually, in a way, this is what we do when I do improv training.
Okay, hold on. Where were you in Michigan?
I grew up in East Lansing, home of the Spartans.
Well, yeah, I'm a Spartan, and I grew up in Kalamazoo.
And do you see how then that one entry point led to connections? And it's amazing. This is what I do all the time with my clients, and it's amazing seeing how many connections you can find where, when we started out the conversation, we may have thought we don't have that much in common. You're in Texarkana. I'm in Los Angeles. But, when we start going back, there's so
Never
much
heard of it.
build on.
Never heard of it. Lost what? Yes.
It's a little town going to fall in the ocean a few years from now.
Yeah,
anyway.
I didn't want to hijack where you were going. I just heard Michigan growing up. I'm like, what the hell?
No, you made my point for me. Yeah. And this is the thing that's so fascinating, is that when we do start opening up, we're all so connected, not to sound like airy-fairy, but we really are. And you can find a connection point with any person if you come from that intention and also from listening. And the last thing I'll add just about networking that I have my clients do, whether they're business networking or dating networking, I have them give themselves a challenge before they even enter the room, because it's human nature that we want to stay where we are comfortable, safe, and that is usually not talking to somebody that we don't know. So we have to give ourselves the additional incentive of, and it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to close this deal. Just, I'm going to tell that story. I'm going to tell my story about my graduation party, or I'm going to talk to 3 people that I don't know, or I'm going to follow someone I don't know on Instagram. And giving that challenge primes you to take actions that you wouldn't otherwise take.
Oh, great. Fantastic. I want to ask one last question, because as I went around the country last year talking to our stacker community, there was one question people asked me over and over and over, and having a pro at this with me, I'd be remiss, this being tomorrow being the big relationship day in the United States.
I hadn't noticed. What is it?
What day? Has nothing to do with me. What's going on there? I was, by the way, I was watching here. I go on a tangent, and I got to make sure I don't do this for too long. But you said that this is the time when everybody's out there between like January 1st and now, really in relationship land, not even really looking at Valentine's Day, but you said it's even chemical for guys. Like there's more testosterone.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's that actually are due to the colder weather and getting less sunlight, that people actually crave more bonding and more oxytocin. But yeah, that's only one part of it. There's also the New Year's effect of everybody, like, Joe, my phone be ringing starting January 1st. It's amazing how people come through the holidays and they come into a new year and they want to start fresh. And a lot of times the first thing they think about if they're not in a relationship is they want to start a relationship, or if they're in a relationship and it's not satisfying. January is also divorce month. So a lot of people start thinking about, how they live their lives. And I always say on my podcast, Dates and Mates, that who you spend your time with, the person you partner with, is the most important decision you will ever make in your life. It affects every other area of your life. It affects your mental health. It affects your family. It affects your finances, which I thought we might talk about today, but we didn't even talk about. But it affects all of these things, and yet it's the decision that a lot of times we leave to chance. So it makes sense to me that as people are being more deliberate about their life, that they get more deliberate about their relationship choices too.
And that's the question I was in the middle of asking you when I went on that tangent, which was this. In every family, you've got one person who's really into the money discussion, another person who's not in the money discussion. Sometimes it's, one of my other things I love is board games. I've heard, people even write me, they're like, how do I get my spouse to like board games as much as I do? And I find that, when you drag your spouse, your loved one, your partner, whoever it is to the table, they hate you even more. They're like, no, I don't want to be dragged to this crap, right? So how do we get this person involved and make it a we thing instead of a me thing, whether it's managing your money together or, taking walks or, spending time on each other's activities? Is there a way that you push through that conflict?
Well, even looking at it as a conflict, I wonder what would happen if, I'll just give you the bottom line. Couples actually only need to have 1 or 2 core interests in common to be successful. There are far more important things than having shared interests. I have my clients focus on shared values, common goals for the future, and building trust and communication. And everything else is sort of just a nice to have. And I find that we put too much emphasis on our partner being able to complement us in all areas of our life. So there's a difference between saying, honey, I'd love for you to just play a board game with me once a week, once a month, and I need to get my partner into board games. My husband is a crossword puzzler, like hardcore crossword puzzler, like everyday New York Times, every day. That is my greatest torture. I have no interest whatsoever. If he said to me, I need us to do these crossword puzzles together to stay together, I'd be like, well, it's been a long and lovely run. But if you can find at least 1 or 2 shared interests, and then really look at your partner not as the be all and end all, but as someone who's one relationship, and you find other people to complement your life and build other relationships. We put too much emphasis on this one relationship. There are other people, Joe, who will play board games with you. I'll play board games, but don't bring me a crossword puzzle.
But I think, well, don't bring me a crossword puzzle either. And I'll play board games with you anytime, Demona. But if it's a core activity, I feel like, money management is, I always, when I was a financial planner, if one person managed all the money and then they passed away, right? The spouse, the loved one, whoever's left is, they're meeting me for the first time going, I have no idea where any of this is, which is why I really need them in the room. And I tried to focus on making it fun and involving them. But I'm wondering if there's a way to get them into that core activity.
It totally depends on the person. We're talking about interests and fun activities versus core activities to live a successful and functional life.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing where it's like you have to come to the table. But, having had many a meeting with my, what do they call it? Wealth management advisor.
Wow. Hey.
Is that what you call it? I drive a Buick, Joe. I don't know if you heard.
That's right. Well, of course. You must be super wealthy then. Yes. Wealth management advisor, financial planner, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I hate those meetings with my husband and him. Like my interests lie in different areas, but I come to the table and we can focus on the parts of that interest me and divvy up so that the parts that interest him, that can be a different part of the conversation. And we're
Fabulous.
all at least functional at the table together.
Love that, because then you know where everything is, but I don't have to be an expert at it all, which I think is really the point. You can't be an expert at everything.
That's the key.
Yeah.
We don't have to be an expert in everything. We just have to support our partner's goals. So I'm never going to insult him or demean him because he likes crossword puzzles, even though I think it's like a huge waste of time. Wait, did I just do that?
Yeah. Inside voice, no. Demona. Inside voice.
I know. I'm never going to do that. I'm going to support him in his goal to do crossword puzzles. But you know what? He found that his best friend who lives in another city does the crossword puzzles every day. They get to talk and have their little man time about
Fabulous.
it every week. So
great.
I don't need to be in that, but he knows that I am supporting him in his goals, and I can go off and do yoga and do all the weird things that I do, and he doesn't have to have any part of that either.
That's so great. Well, and it's funny because I think that comes back to we put too much pressure on ourselves and all this stuff. I love how you lower the pressure, make these things easy. We don't have to go into conversations knowing everything. We just let it breathe. Love the tips today. So two questions, Demona. What's coming up on the podcast that nobody else knows about? Nobody listens to Stacking Benjamins. It's just you and me. What's a secret thing that you can tell me that, just for us, that's coming up?
You're making the assumption I planned this far ahead.
Well, then it's going to be something special.
Honestly, I've been doing this show for 10 years, and we have a pretty tight format. We do headlines of dating relationship headlines ripped from the headlines news. We do an interview, and we do a Dear Demona Q&A. And I'm thinking of switching up the format a little bit. And
well, there's something.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. And then I just turned in my manuscript for my new book that comes out next January. So you'll also be seeing little excerpts and tidbits from the book.
And it means hopefully we also get Demona back here this time next year.
You better.
Hopefully we do. The podcast is Dates and Mates. And then second, if people just want to work with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Go to DemonaHoffman.com or datesandmates.com. And I actually have lots of free goodies. I have a free profile starter kit. If you don't know how to write a profile or you need a refresh, I have lots of tools and tips and tricks up my sleeve that I'm happy to share there.
And we'll have links to everything Demona on our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. Happy Valentine's Day, girlfriend. Love you.
Love you too. Happy Valentine's Day.